I think I may have overspoken in my video, Species Distinctions, Human Values, and Objective Science. In that video I argued two things. First, that species distinctions are valid and objective. Second, that the felt imperative to act morally applies only to human beings. Now, I believe that the first of those propositions is unassailably true, but the second proposition, namely that felt imperatives to act morally apply only to human beings, requires some qualification. My video was in response to Conference Report's very thoughtful video, Human Values and Objective Science. About that video, he wrote, I am not saying that there is no distinction between one species and another, only that these distinctions don't map onto any viable distinction within objective moral imperatives. The concept of suffering, for example, is not unique to humans, so to claim that the reduction of human suffering has a moral foundation which is objective or transcendent is incorrect. End of quote. So, species distinctions are real, he is saying, but the distinctions don't generate any moral imperatives for human beings. After all, he argues, other species experience suffering, so to claim that the reduction of human suffering is an objective moral imperative is incorrect. I hope I've represented his argument correctly. Before I address that argument, I want to talk about now how I overspoke before my previous video. I am not saying that we have no moral imperatives to reduce the suffering of non-human life forms when we can, and when doing so doesn't increase the aggregate suffering for other life forms, especially for the human life form. If I see an injured animal, for example, on the street, I believe that I have a genuine moral obligation to help that animal, and I think that most people would agree with that. I would say then that we have second-order moral obligations to non-human life forms. But I would assert that our real and objective species difference with non-human species results in a natural privileging of the human species morally. Now, any number of thought experiments reveal that this must be the case. Suppose there's a fire in a building, and you can save either a monkey or a human being. Your natural instinct, and I believe it's one driven by your species identification, is to save the human being over the monkey. But if there is no difference that matters morally than the experience of suffering, then there would be no moral difference between saving the monkey over the human being. Surely that can't be correct. But it is precisely our species identification that causes us to morally privilege the human being. So, to clarify what I said before, we have first-order moral obligations to human beings and second-order moral obligations to non-human life forms. But I want to emphasize this. Morally, our imperatives privilege human beings over non-human life forms, and naturally to do so because of our species identification and difference from other non-human species.